Hi, okay, Andy Porter. I thought I'd just make a quick video on zapping and zappers. Many clients are asking questions about zappers, why we recommend zappers, what they do, what they don't do, that type of thing. So rather than just send out lots of information via email and on the website, I thought it was probably easier to put together a quick video that details what zappers are, why you may want to use a zapper, what they do, and effectively how they work, which of course is the key point really. So quite some time ago, I've always been interested in the health aspects of my own health and generally health as such. And of course, my experience from a negative perspective when I started to get involved with negative things on my spiritual path, occult things happened. Everyone can read the story on the website, which makes quite interesting reading, I think. So, but basically, that aspect of my life kind of became quite big. So I've always been buying books and reading things and learning things about health and how to stay healthy and different ideas. And of course, most of the last 20 years for me really has been about working with my guide Chen, spirit guide Chen, from a spiritual perspective and helping people to clear negative things. So negative attachments, interdimensional parasites, curses, so spiritual problems basically that people have that can really only be cleared working alongside a spirit guide and his team. So this is what I do. This is my kind of job, my life. It's been my life now for 20 years. Quite some time ago, Jane wondered if our life would go back to normal before we were both kind of turned on spiritually, and obviously that hasn't happened. And in fact, the opposite has happened, that the spiritual aspect of our lives has increased in sort of ferocity, really. And this is what we do, basically. So this is us. So back to zapping and zappers. So I bought this book quite some time ago. It's called the Cure for All Diseases. It's written by Hulda Clark. So I was reading through this book, and it talks about how, in her opinion, basically diseases are caused by different things, primarily, two things really from her perspective: parasites and pollutants. So parasites inside our body that basically attach to organs, that kind of thing, cause problems, and pollutants in terms of toxic things like arsenic, lead, cobalt. So different toxic chemicals that obviously cause health problems. So in her opinion, these two things are why we become ill. And she said about her mission as a kind of GP, effectively, to look at how to solve those problems. Somewhere on her path, she stumbled across basically electrocution. So she realised that by using electricity to effectively zap yourself, that then kills parasites, bacteria, fungi, viruses inside our body. And of course, if that happens, then we move back into a state of better health. So she stumbled upon this conclusion quite some time ago and spent a long time working on that. And from her perspective, which kind of I agree with, is what Chen talks about, everything on planet Earth has a unique frequency of vibration. So I have my own frequency of vibration. You have your frequency of vibration. Trees vibrate at a certain frequency. Everything living has a vibration, basically. So therefore, it would be conclusive to understand that viruses, bacteria, fungi also have their frequency of vibration. So she realised that if you can tune in to their frequency of vibration, you can effectively electrocute them using a zapper, which is basically a small tiny box, 5-volt battery. So it's a very, very small electric current that you send through your body, and basically it effectively kills things that are living, like viruses, bacteria, parasites. And parasites, I think, are probably the biggest problem from her perspective. So I've basically built a zapper myself. I bought the book, read through the book, was really interested. I come from an electronic background back in my heyday years ago from college, effectively. So I basically bought the parts to create my own zapper. So I made the zapper and tested it, and it seemed to work. I used an oscilloscope to check that the frequency it gave out and the voltage was as per her book, which seemed to be right. So I spent some time using that, and what I noticed, incidentally, really, I didn't really have any health problems. So of course there wasn't that much to resolve for me, if you like, but it was more of a project. But what I did notice is that zapping seemed to keep back negative things. So negative entities, discarnate earthbound attachments, interdimensional parasites, so things that connect to our etheric field, all seem to be pushed back or disconnected completely whilst zapping. So obviously we perform services whereby we do that ourselves. We work with my guide Chen. He clears people's etheric field. So he removes interdimensional parasites. He disconnects discarnate spirit. So people that have once been alive and then died, if they attach to you, they attach to your etheric field. And then, of course, they start to work from a negative perspective on your thought process. So you start to get intrusive thoughts, intrusive feelings, ideas, emotions. So attachments can cause these types of intrusive problems for people, basically. And obviously on top of that, then you have sort of negative entities. So these are, I see them as kind of like gargoyle type creatures, the sort of thing you see on the top of churches, that type of thing. So I see those connected to people's etheric fields. And when they're connected to you, they basically sap your energy. So they kind of suck energy from a person. And again, they create negative, chaotic events in your life. Again, intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts. They interfere with your sleep. So you start to have bad dreams. They can create sleep paralysis, whereby you can't move. Like a waking dream, but you're actually not able to get back into and orchestrate your physical body when you're sleeping. So these types of negative things are things that we deal with and work with on a daily basis. But basically, I noticed that zapping, regular zapping use, keeps these things back. So I was interested to find out how that works and why effectively. So this is a zapper that we currently have available on the website. So it's basically a black box, 2 electrodes, positive and negative, red and black, 2 copper hand holds effectively. So the idea being that effectively you hold one of these in one hand, hold the other in the other hand. It doesn't matter which way round, they're not polarity specific. And there's one button on the front. So you turn the button on, the light flashes, showing that you've got battery, and depending upon the brightness of the light, it shows you how good or how bad the battery is. So over time, the light starts to diminish, which is your kind of key to replace the battery. So these things use a 9-volt battery, basically, that's sort of located in the back. If I can actually get it out, since I don't really have any nails per se. Okay, so we're struggling with that. But basically, there's a 9-volt battery compartment there that you just put a screwdriver in, flick that out, and change the battery. So it's a very simple device. It's a simple concept. You can't get it wrong. You can't electrocute yourself. The only thing we say not to do with these is for pregnant people or people with pacemakers, not to use them, because obviously Dr. Hulda Clark talks about that in her book, in that they're not tested for use by people that have pacemakers or pregnant. So apart from that, it's a really simple device. Concept being, again, that what we're going to be doing effectively is electrocuting things that have the frequency of disease from a parasitic perspective. So the way that she describes it in her book, she talks about basically like a 3 times treatment. So the idea being that you turn the zapper on here, 7 minutes. So hold it in your hands. You can put like a wet towel around the actual electrodes to give you a better electrical connectivity. And you basically just sit there watching telly, zap for 7 minutes, turn it off, go make a cup of tea, sit down, watch telly, chill out. So let 20 minutes go by. And then after 20 minutes, you come back again, pick up the zapper. Again, doesn't matter which way round or which hands you're holding them in. Turn it back on again, another 7 minutes. So you can continue watching telly for another 7 minutes, or your favourite Netflix film. And then again, off for 20 minutes. So that's 2 zappings on, 2 offs of 20 minutes. And you come back after the second 20 minutes, zap again, turn it back on, carry on watching telly, Netflix, for another 7 minutes. Basically, and that's you done. So you've had the zapper on 3 times for 7 minutes and off for 20. Now, the reason that timing is quite specific, this is timing that, again, she talks about in her book. If you buy the book, you can read a lot of the detail. But the general synopsis from my perspective is basically it takes 3 treatments to kill everything in your blood that's negative from a parasitic, viral and bacterial perspective. So the first zapping kills parasites, it kills viruses and bacteria. As they die off and are released into your bloodstream, the parasites die, and then viruses and bacteria seem to reoccur from those dead parasites. So there's different viruses, different bacteria inside these tiny parasites, and they're basically released into the bloodstream. So the second zapping kills them completely, and then you have this 20 minutes that you basically let those viruses and bacteria die off. And then the third zapping, the third time that you do it for 7 minutes, kills everything. So at that point, in theory, your bloodstream now is completely clear. Any bacteria, viruses, fungi, etc. that you have are dead. The only thing, of course, it doesn't do, because it's electric and it's working on the surface of things, it doesn't kill things that are shielded, so shielded organisms inside either your intestinal tract or your stomach. So basically, if you've got flukes or if you've got worms or things inside your stomach and your intestinal tract, zapping won't kill them because they're shielded by that organ. So what you do for those, in theory, according to Dr. Hulda Clark anyway, is basically it's some type of detox flush, so a herbal detox flush that flushes through your stomach and obviously your intestinal tract. So if you follow those two things, from her perspective, this is, in her opinion, obviously not mine, the cure for all diseases, basically. So I mean, whether that's been proven to be true or not is anyone's guess, but obviously that's what she talks about. She's a scientific doctor. The book's pretty thick, as you can see. There's a lot of information in there. And obviously there's the circuitry in there to build these zappers. So from my perspective, zappers are great from a client's perspective, because we find that, again, if you zap regularly, so I just spend every 2 or 3 days, we sit watching TV, myself and Jane, and we just basically take it in turns to zap for about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So I don't generally follow the 777 2020 thing, because we've been doing it for years. And of course, the more often you do it, the more you clear yourself of parasites and bacteria and viruses. So I do it now as a way of keeping away negative things. So again, strengthening that etheric field, disconnecting, detaching any interdimensional parasites, discarnate spirit entities, that type of thing. Zapping seems to help with that. And we've had lots of clients that have used these that come back and say, I feel better. I don't know if it's because it's making my health better. I don't know if it's because I had parasites and bacteria and viruses that have been killed, or is it because it's also detaching and clearing my etheric field from these negative spiritual aspects that are problematic. So from my perspective, obviously it's basically a win-win. It doesn't really matter how it works. From my perspective, if it works, it works. So if you zap and you feel better, you don't have parasites, you don't have flukes, those sorts of things, worms, it kills all those things off. So that's obviously working on the health perspective. We're working from a spiritual perspective, and from a spiritual perspective, I actually see them work. So I see them clear and remove negative things in your etheric field, and that's basically why we sell them. So we're not a health company. We don't do health things. We're spiritual help. Basically, that's what we do. That's what we kind of focus on, and that's what we're good at doing. Working in line with my guide Chen and his team in spirit. But zapping definitely works from that perspective. So from a spiritual perspective, I see that working, and again, clients feel that it works. So hopefully I've kind of covered zapping for the people that have asked me lots and lots of questions, of which I obviously spend time writing answers back, and there's a lot of documentation on the website, but I thought a video probably covers things in a quicker space of time. So in about 15 minutes, this video hopefully has covered what the zapper is, what they do, what they can do, what we see them do from a spiritual perspective. The health claims obviously are something that we don't know. It's in Dr. Hulda Clark's book, but obviously we're not supporting that per se. But from a spiritual perspective, zapping works. So hopefully that helps everyone with the questions that you've come forward with.